Welcome back to the Spoonie and Caregiver Live podcast with me, your host, Jordan Banderas. And before we get started, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes of the podcast. And let's go ahead and get into today's episode, shall we? On today's episode, I want to start with this question, which is, have you ever felt like you are walking a tightrope through life? I know, right? It's a kind of a weird question, but the reason why I wanted to ask this is because I used to see my life that way, especially after my wife became ill. This is in part due to all the changes we had to make when Katie became ill. We had to get used to the physical deterioration, mental deterioration, financial deterioration, the stress from the unknown, because when you either a spoonie or a caregiver, you don't know what's going to happen the next day, to be honest. You don't know if you're not going to wake up with pain the next day, in the next 5 minutes. So literally, there's a lot of unknown when you're a caregiver or an actual spoonie. And I know that quite a few people are going through similar situations due to chronic illnesses, trauma, and many other illnesses and or situations, because there's a lot of situations that can put a lot of stress in your body and actually make you sick. But here's one thing, at least in my case, which is the reason why I wanted to talk about this. I have noticed that I didn't want to remove my safety net from under the tightrope I have been walking in life. You know that most of the time there is a net that catches you if you fall from the rope. Like if you go to the circus or if you watch videos about the circus, you know how there's like people walking on the tightrope, but there's always a net. There's always going to be a net for them. And obviously that net kind of gives you a sense of safety, which it can be like deceiving because, you fell. And at the same time, it's like you still have to get back up, like you have to get back up. But in real life, like in our situation, when you fall, it takes longer to get back up, even with the net. So it's kind of like harder to get up even with the net, because for me at least, that net was thinking my wife was going to get better soon. And what this means to me is that I got too comfortable taking care of my wife because I saw improvement. You know how sometimes you or your spoonie, if you're a spoonie as well, obviously that includes you, but you or your spoonie might have good days, like my wife, for example, she has a good week. And in that week, she's doing better. She's not having any seizures, any pain, anything. Like everything is under control, right? When I see that, I'm like, I don't have to worry. Like, she's doing good, And because of that, I stopped taking care of myself, thinking that I wouldn't have to push harder because she's doing better. I'm like, I see a lot of hope. Like, I have a lot of hope that she's going to get better at one point, or maybe not 100%, but like a little bit better. For me, anything is good, So I see that, and I'm like, okay, she's doing better. She can walk. She doesn't need to use the wheelchair or anything like that. But you know how life is, and you know how. Let me rephrase that. But you know how life acts in many different ways, right? And she's still having major issues with her hips, and I have to understand that some of her illnesses will never fully go away. Now, because of all of this, she has to use a wheelchair, which is not a big deal, but I have been taking it too easy, way too easy. So when I started to notice that I was out of shape, I was like, why did I let this happen? At first, I'd blame COVID, because of the stress of COVID. I'm a stress eater. I eat when I get stressed. And then I also blame it to stress, which I was like, okay, it's almost like blaming it to the same thing. But then I had to take responsibility and I blame myself. But one of the things that I realized is that all of those excuses are just that, excuses. Because I decided to stop pushing myself to be a better caregiver. That's a decision I made. It's not something that just because I saw my wife getting better, I was like, she's doing better. I don't have to work. I don't have to work out or anything like that. So the way that I see it is like I made that decision. It didn't just happen. I had to make that decision. So I stopped working out and eating healthier, and I got to the point where I couldn't really push her in the wheelchair anymore, where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so out of shape. Like, we went to a grocery store and there's a little bit of an incline in the parking lot, and it's not that big of an incline, but my legs were burning after that, and I was like, I'm really out of shape. Like, I did this to myself. So after I realized that I had done this to myself, I decided to remove the safety net underneath my tightrope and understand that being a caregiver means that even if things look okay, we need to be prepared in case something else shows up. Because unfortunately, we don't know what's gonna happen. When you have a chronic illness, it might go away for a little bit or for a long time, and all of a sudden it might come back. We don't know why, but it might happen. Like in my wife's case, like, she was doing good, but then her hip got torn on the labrum, and then she had to have surgery, and then another surgery, and then another surgery, and then another surgery, and then she hasn't been able to heal the way that she's supposed to, and doctors don't know why. But here's the thing, this is the reason why I wanted to talk about this too, because when we set up a net like I did, we can cause more harm than good. The reason why that is because our Spoonie can get too comfortable as well and stop taking care of themselves. This is something that has happened between me and my wife, where she was doing good. She was having like a good month. We were like, oh my gosh, she's able to sleep. She doesn't have any seizures. She doesn't have any bad depression episodes. She doesn't have any anxiety, her anxiety is under control. Like, everything was under control. So we both decided to stop taking care of ourselves. But the problem is that I was getting frustrated by her not taking care of herself, and she was getting frustrated with me by not taking care of myself, because she was all like, well, you're taking it too easy, so I'm also gonna be taking it easy, because like I have mentioned before on some of the videos that I have posted, when you're a caregiver, you're literally a leader. You have to lead the household. You have to lead the Spoonie. So the Spoonie, no matter how bad they're doing, sometimes they're gonna be like, well, if they can literally take it easy because I'm doing better, then I'm going to take it easy. So that can cause a lot of frustrations on both sides. That can cause arguments that are unnecessary, fights that can cause a lot of stress as well, because like if you stop taking care of yourself, like if you have a certain condition that requires you to eat a certain way or only certain foods, and because you're feeling okay, you stop doing that, you stop following that regime or that routine, then obviously whatever you're dealing with might come back worse than before. I've seen it with my wife. That's why I'm talking about this. So it causes a lot of issues. That has happened to me. And in some of the stories that I have received from you guys, it seems that you guys feel the same, or you guys are going through the same situation. Not the exact same thing, but similar, you know? And that's why I wanted to bring this up, because life, in our case, in our situation, when you're going through something, no matter what it is, no matter if you're a caregiver or a spoonie, like I said, this podcast is for everybody, but if you're going through something, there's going to be a point where we just want to take it easy, which is fine, but we have to always be prepared, or be reminded that something, especially when you have a chronic illness, something always can come up. There's always going to be a flare day. It could be because of the weather, or it could be because of something you ate. So there's so many things that could cause a lot of issues, right? And if you're feeling similar to this, if you have feelings similar to what I'm describing, don't quit, because that's the easiest option to do, just to quit, right? But don't quit. Keep going. And if you need support, we are here for you. Because we all know what it feels like to go through something like this, you know? Like if you're going to something similar to my situation, like I can relate to your situation and you can relate to mine. And you don't need a net. In my case, what I have noticed is that I know I don't need a net. I needed a support system, which I did have. Which I do have. But because I had that net under me, I was like, I'll fall and I'll bounce and I'll get back up. But when you always think that way, you might not pay attention to the important things, which it can be your health, the health of your spoonie, or the health of your caregiver, you know? And if you have kids, obviously it gets worse. Now, I don't have kids, but I have seen other people that have kids that are going through something similar, how hard it is for them, because once they start taking it a little bit too easy because they're having a good week or a good day, and then they get a flare, they get all frustrated because they don't know what to do. And that's why it's important to remove nets like this, where you can have a good day and you can have fun, but don't expect that to last. That's one of the important things that I have learned taking care of my wife. Like, yes, good times are good, but unfortunately, and I don't want to be pessimist, I want to sound pessimist, but it's the truth. Sometimes good times won't last when you're facing a chronic illness. And we have to understand that, yeah, right? We have to understand that. And when we understand that, we understand that having a good day or a good week or a good time with our spoonie or our caregiver or our family needs to be appreciated. You know? Needs to be appreciated. Like it kind of gives you like the opportunity to appreciate everything that you're doing when you're feeling okay. And in my case, I was actually not doing that. That's why when I removed the net, I was like, you know what? I need to appreciate every moment, because if I fall and there's no net, the the impact is gonna be hurting. It's gonna hurt a lot, right? So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today on today's episode. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. Thank you for listening and giving me your time to talk about my story and what it's like to be a caregiver and a spoonie. And again, don't forget to share, like, subscribe. Don't forget to follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you want to share your story anonymously, you can send it to me at the spoonieandcaregiverlife@gmail.com. And also, if you feel like somebody can benefit from the podcast by listening to everything that I have to say or everything that I share, don't forget to share it. That's how we grow, and we are growing thanks to you. And obviously, we also have the community on Facebook, which is pretty much for everybody. If you need support, we're there for you. And pretty much that's it for today. So again, thank you for everything. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. And I'll leave you like always. Always have a great day.